A Russian convoy moved into a forest road, believing the rows of trees on both sides would help hide its movement from the sky. But only moments later, that same road began to expose a deadly mistake. From above, Ukrainian FPV drones saw what the crews on the ground failed to recognize in time. A route that seemed safe suddenly became a locked corridor, where every stop, every slowdown, and every wrong gap in the formation could open the door to a much larger chain of consequences. Once a vehicle appears in the open, the question is no longer only whether it will be hit. The real question is what may be pulled into danger after that. Armored vehicles, firepower, supplies, communications, and even positions that seem far behind the front can all enter the same circle of risk. So what was the fatal mistake of this Russian convoy on the forest road? Why could a simple choice of route expose so many deeper weaknesses? And does this ambush reveal a larger shift in how Ukrainian FPV drones are shaping the battlefield? Let's break it down with military force. Ukraine's drone campaign is no longer about isolated strikes. It is becoming a continuous target hunting system that watches, follows, and attacks Russian movement across several layers of the battlefield. The first layer is reconnaissance. Ukrainian UAVs scan roads, forest edges, firing positions, supply routes, depot areas, and hiding spots behind the front. Their task is to find a target and understand where it is going, how fast it is moving, and whether it is part of a larger convoy or support network. This matters because Russia now faces danger beyond obvious armored targets. A tank, APC, IFV, artillery piece, MLRS launcher, supply truck, ammunition vehicle, fuel carrier, or communication system can all become part of the same chain once spotted from above. FPV drones become the fast strike element. They can attack moving vehicles, exposed weapons, damaged armor, or equipment that has just revealed its position. Their advantage is timing, because the distance between detection and attack can be very short. A vehicle that appears safe at one moment can become vulnerable seconds later. On a forest road, the danger sharpens. Trees may hide movement from ground observers, but they also narrow the path, limit escape routes, and make every slowdown easier to exploit. Bomber drones add the next layer of pressure, especially when the target has stopped, been abandoned, or gathered near a depot, hangar, tree line, or field storage area. They allow Ukraine to hit equipment, ammunition, fuel, and support vehicles without using larger weapons every time. Together, these drones form a battlefield kill chain. One UAV can detect the target. Another can keep watching it. An FPV can strike first. A bomber drone can return to finish what remains. A later reconnaissance pass can confirm the damage and search for the next exposed asset. This chain changes the meaning of movement for Russian units. A vehicle is not safe simply because it has left the immediate front. A firing system is not safe simply because it has pulled back after shooting. A supply truck is not safe simply because it is behind the assault line. Ukraine is creating pressure before the explosion happens. Russian crews must assume that being seen can quickly become being hit. That forces faster decisions, shorter pauses, and more mistakes under stress. This is why the drone system matters more than any single video clip. It shows a battlefield where observation, timing, and cheap precision weapons are working together. Once an armored target is pulled into that watching system, survival depends less on how strong its armor looks, and more on whether it can keep moving. That leads directly to the next layer of the problem, because once mobility breaks, armor becomes far easier to destroy. Russian armored vehicles are destroyed through a chain of failure, not one strike. The process starts when movement breaks. A tank may enter a forest road with its armor facing expected danger. An APC may follow with troops. An IFV may try to cross a narrow approach before Ukrainian fire reacts. Yet the key moment can come before the final explosion. It begins when the vehicle slows, hits a mine, takes a first FPV hit, or stops in the wrong place. That interruption changes the fight. A moving vehicle has choices. It can reverse, turn, use cover, or leave the road. A vehicle with broken tracks has almost none. Once mobility is lost, the crew must fight from a position chosen by the battlefield. Mines, artillery, and first drone hits do not need to destroy the vehicle immediately. They only need to damage movement and create the pause that makes the next attack easier. When the first vehicle loses speed, the danger spreads through the formation. A narrow road gives following vehicles little space to maneuver. Drivers behind the damaged vehicle may stop, slow down, or move into exposed ground. Armor works best when it can keep moving and face danger from the right direction. Once the formation is blocked, every vehicle becomes easier to study from above. The convoy cannot use speed as protection. For Ukrainian drone teams, this pause creates time. A pilot can watch how the crew reacts, where the damage is, and which side is exposed. The first strike may only force a stop, but the next strike can be aimed with far more precision. The damaged vehicle becomes a fixed problem. It may still have thick armor, but it is now sitting inside a kill zone. If the crew opens a hatch, tries to escape, or waits for recovery, each action can create another opening. FPV drones do not need to defeat the strongest front armor of a tank. They can attack places never meant to absorb repeated top or rear hits. Open hatches are one clear risk, especially when crews try to see outside, escape smoke, or leave a damaged vehicle. The engine deck is another vulnerable area because a hit there can start a fire and stop recovery. The rear section is exposed when a vehicle turns, reverses, or gets trapped. The gap between the turret and the hull can be even more dangerous. A precise hit near that area can reach ammunition or thinner protection around the turret ring. Even a vehicle fitted with a cope cage can still have spaces that a skilled pilot can exploit. The cage may change the attack angle, but it does not erase every opening. This is where small weapons can produce large results. An FPV drone may carry a limited warhead, but if it reaches fuel, ammunition, or storage inside the vehicle, the explosion can grow beyond the drone itself. Secondary explosions are why these attacks often look so destructive. The drone is only the trigger. The real force comes from what the vehicle is carrying. A tank with ammunition inside, an IFV carrying supplies, or an APC loaded with explosive material can turn into a larger blast once the internal load catches fire. One accurate strike can leave almost nothing worth recovering. For Russia, the problem is not only losing expensive armor. It is losing confidence in armored movement. A vehicle can be strong, but if it is slowed, watched, and attacked in sequence, protection becomes less decisive. Recovery also becomes dangerous. Sending another vehicle to pull out damaged armor can create a target in the same area. Waiting gives drones more time. Because of this chain, Russia has tried to add more protection. Extra cages, metal frames, and electronic systems are meant to give crews a better chance. But those additions do not end the contest. They move it into the next phase. Russia's answer to the FPV threat is now visible on many vehicles. More steel, more cages, more improvised frames, and more electronic warfare systems have appeared across the front. These changes show that Moscow understands the danger, but they also reveal the limits of protection in a sky watched by small drones. A cope cage can still help. It can force an incoming FPV to explode before it reaches the main armor, and it can make a clean hit harder for the pilot. Extra metal screens may reduce the chance that a warhead strikes a vulnerable surface. Electronic warfare adds another layer by trying to break the signal between the drone and its operator. For a Russian crew, a few seconds of interference can be enough to survive. Yet these defenses do not create a safe bubble around the vehicle. They only change the problem Ukrainian pilots must solve. A tank covered with a cage still has weak zones. An IFV with extra screens still has an engine area, a rear section, a turret ring, roof gaps, and openings around added frames. An APC with electronic warfare may reduce the risk from one drone, but it cannot always stop several drones approaching from different angles. Ukrainian crews can adjust the attack rather than abandon the target. They may send one drone first to test the jamming field. They may wait until the vehicle slows, turns, or exposes its rear. They may aim for the space between the turret and the hull, the engine deck, or a gap left by rushed field modifications. This turns protection into a contest of angles and timing. Russia adds layers to block the easiest strike. Ukraine studies the opening that remains. The opening does not need to be large. If a drone reaches fuel, ammunition, or a thinner section near the top of the vehicle, a small warhead can still create heavy damage. Added protection also brings costs. A cage makes the vehicle larger and easier to notice from above. Extra metal can add weight, reduce visibility, limit turret movement, and make driving harder on narrow forest roads or damaged tracks. A vehicle that becomes harder to hide and harder to turn may survive one threat, then become exposed to another. This matters most in restricted terrain, where crews cannot easily reverse, spread out, or hide the vehicle once drones begin circling above the route. Electronic warfare has limits as well. It needs power, correct placement, and constant operation. It can also reveal that an important vehicle is nearby. It may disrupt drones using certain control links, but it does not stop mines, artillery, bomber drones, or every FPV guided through a resistant method. In practice, Russia is not solving the drone problem. It is buying time inside a more dangerous environment. That time may save a crew in one moment, but it can also draw more Ukrainian attention if the vehicle remains visible, valuable, and unable to leave quickly. The fight becomes a cycle of adaptation. One side builds a cage, the other studies the gap. One side turns on jamming, the other changes route, altitude, timing, or attack direction. Protection becomes part of a moving contest, not a final answer. Russian armor can become harder to kill, but it does not become invisible. It also does not become free to move without risk. The next danger is even less predictable, because some FPV drones no longer need to chase from above. They can wait near the road until the target comes to them. At that point, protection becomes temporary delay, not lasting certainty. The newest danger in FPV warfare is no longer only the drone that chases a target from the sky. It is the drone that waits before the target arrives. These waiter drones change the rhythm of the attack because they turn a flying weapon into a prepared ambush tool. Instead of burning battery power while searching for a moving vehicle, the drone can land near a road, a tree line, a trench approach, or a route Russian troops use often. From that position, it becomes harder to notice. It is not circling overhead, making noise, or showing a clear flight path. It can sit low, remain quiet, and wait for the battlefield to bring the target closer. That makes the first warning arrive late. For Russian movement on narrow routes, this creates a tactical problem. A driver may believe the danger begins when a drone appears in the air. But if the drone is already near the road, the attack can begin the moment the vehicle enters the wrong stretch of ground. The crew has less time to react, the vehicle has less space to turn, and the escort behind it may not understand where the strike came from. This is especially dangerous on forest roads and approach corridors where trees, mud, damaged tracks, or abandoned equipment limit movement. A convoy that depends on speed can lose its advantage instantly. Speed helps when a vehicle is trying to outrun a drone coming from distance. It helps far less when the weapon has already been placed near the route. In that case, the vehicle is not escaping a chase. It is driving into an ambush. The same danger applies to infantry and small assault groups. Soldiers moving along a trench line, crossing a tree belt, or approaching a forward position may feel safer because no drone is visible above them. A waiting FPV removes that comfort. It can rise from nearby ground and strike before the group has time to scatter. This makes ordinary movement feel uncertain. Every familiar path can become suspect. Every pause near cover can become dangerous. Every repeated route can become a pattern that Ukraine studies and then turns against the next group that uses it. The value of this tactic is not just the explosion. It is the pressure it places on decision-making. Russian units must worry about drones they can see and drones they cannot see. They must check the road, the sky, the tree line, and the ground at the same time. That slows movement and creates hesitation. It can force vehicles to change routes, separate too early, or stop in places that are no safer than the road they tried to avoid. A waiter drone works like a smart mine with a human pilot behind it. It can conserve energy, reduce warning signs, and attack only when the target is close enough for a chance of success. This does not make every route impossible to use, but it makes routine movement much harder to trust. For Russia, that is the deeper danger. Once small vehicles, supply routes, and infantry paths can be ambushed this way, the risk rises for larger systems moving behind them. The next layer of pressure now falls on heavy fire platforms that carry far more stored explosive power. Russia's heavy fire systems are priority targets because they combine battlefield power with dangerous internal vulnerability. The TOS-1A Koncealment, BM-30 Smerch, and BM-27 Uragan are not ordinary vehicles. They are built to deliver sudden heavy fire against trenches, troop concentrations, and fortified positions. When these systems appear, Ukraine has strong reason to hunt them quickly, because one destroyed launcher can remove a serious threat before it shapes the next fight. The TOS-1A is especially feared because it fires thermobaric rockets. These weapons create intense blast and heat, which makes them dangerous around bunkers, dugouts, and defensive lines. Yet the same rocket load also creates a weakness. If an FPV drone reaches the launcher or ammunition area, the vehicle can become its own explosive source. The drone warhead may be small, but the stored rockets can turn the hit into a much larger detonation. That makes the system dangerous to both sides once it is exposed. The BM-30 Smerch and BM-27 Uragan create a different problem for Ukraine. They can fire from distance, then move away from the firing point before counterfire arrives. In older battlefield logic, range and movement gave them a better chance to survive. In this war, reconnaissance drones can follow the cycle after launch. A launcher may fire, withdraw, and head toward cover, but its route can still be watched from above. That makes the period after firing extremely dangerous. The crew may think the hardest part is finished once the rockets leave the rails. In reality, the vehicle may now be easier to track because it has revealed its firing area and started moving along a route that can be followed. UAV operators can observe where it hides, where it reloads, or where it joins other support vehicles. Once that pattern is seen, the launcher is no longer protected only by distance. It becomes part of a trail that can lead Ukrainian strike teams to a more valuable target. This changes the meaning of counter-battery warfare. Ukraine is not only trying to hit a launcher at the moment it fires. It is trying to watch the full operating cycle, from firing to withdrawal, concealment, reload, and return. Each stage creates a chance to strike, and each pause gives drone operators more information. For Russia, losing these systems weakens more than firepower. It reduces confidence, slows planning, and forces commanders to move valuable launchers more carefully. Every rocket mission can create a trail. Every trail can become a target. Crews may shorten firing windows, change routes, or hide longer, but those choices can reduce the tempo of Russian artillery support. A weapon built for sudden mass fire becomes less useful if it must spend more time avoiding detection than preparing the next launch. But major firepower is only one layer because Ukraine is also moving toward the systems that help Russia see, communicate, control drones, and keep battlefield rhythm alive under pressure. Ukraine is now striking beyond vehicles and guns, aiming at the systems that help Russian forces see, communicate, move, and control the battle. This layer of the drone war is less dramatic than a burning tank, but it can be more damaging over time. The targets are smaller, but the consequences can spread very quickly. Antenna sites, relay stations, EW systems, drone operator positions, hangars, depots, and fuel logistics all keep Russian units connected, supplied, and aware of what is happening around them. When one of these nodes is destroyed, the effect can spread beyond the blast area. A damaged relay station can weaken drone control over a sector. A destroyed antenna can reduce communication between forward teams and support crews. A hit on an EW system can open more space for Ukrainian drones to operate. A strike on a fuel depot can slow vehicles that have not even reached the front. Ukraine is therefore attacking the rhythm behind Russian operations. If Russian crews cannot receive orders quickly, guide UAVs reliably, move fuel forward, or protect drone operators, then even powerful weapons become harder to use at the right moment. The same logic applies to hangars, depots, and supply trucks. A hangar may protect equipment from weather and observation, but once discovered, it can become a single point where several assets are lost together. A depot may sit behind the fighting line, but if drones can reach it, distance no longer guarantees safety. This pressure is also expanding toward Crimea. In that theater, sea drones may help bring FPV drones or strike UAVs closer to shore, creating new ways to pressure Russian air defense, naval assets, airfield infrastructure, and drone bases. The reported attacks in Crimea should be described carefully. Some details, such as damage to a Tor M2, a control tower, or a four-post hangar, may come from preliminary battlefield reporting and still require confirmation. The safer language is reported according to preliminary information, or if confirmed. That caution matters because the larger trend is already visible without overstating any single strike. Ukraine is trying to connect the front, the rear, and the coast into one pressure zone. When all these target layers are placed together, from a motorcycle hidden in a tree line to a UAV base in Crimea, the picture becomes larger than separate drone hits. It shows a deeper shift in how modern war is operated. Drones are no longer supporting tools on the Ukrainian battlefield. They are shaping the way targets are found, trapped, and destroyed. From motorcycles hidden in tree lines to supply trucks, tanks, rocket systems, and drone bases in Crimea, the threat now reaches across every layer of Russian operations. Ukraine is using this pressure to slow movement, disrupt logistics, weaken fire support, and damage the communication links that hold units together. Russia will keep adapting with cope cages, EW systems, camouflage, decoys, smoke, night movement, and wider dispersion. Those measures may reduce losses in some cases, but they cannot restore the old sense of safe movement. The next phase will depend on speed, data, and coordination. The side that sees faster, strikes sooner, and connects battlefield information more effectively will gain the stronger hand in modern war. That is the lesson now clearly emerging from Ukraine's drone-dominated frontline today. If this breakdown helped you understand how drones are changing modern warfare, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Military Force for more serious battlefield analysis. War should never be watched as entertainment, but studied as a warning about the cost of failed politics, broken deterrence, and human miscalculation. Stay informed, stay critical, and keep following the facts behind the front lines.